England, Diego Maradona. You can't talk England hatred without starting here, because nothing that's happened since has come close to matching it. 1986, the quarterfinal, 4 years removed from the Falklands War and a nation still raw from it, and then Diego Maradona rises above Peter Shilton, punches the ball into the net with a hand nobody was supposed to notice, and celebrates like he just won it fair and square. The referee missed it. The linesman missed it. Maradona didn't miss a beat, calling it the hand of God. Afterward, with a grin that suggested the theft wasn't just acceptable, it was the best part of the story. 4 minutes later he scored what's still considered one of the greatest goals in World Cup history, dribbling past half the England team like the handball had never happened at all, which somehow made it worse, because it proved he didn't even need to cheat to beat them. For decades on, England fans still bring it up unprompted, still mime the handball when Argentina comes up in conversation, still teach it to kids who weren't alive for it. Maradona died in 2020 and the hatred didn't die with him. If anything, tournaments since have kept resurrecting it, because every England-Argentina fixture gets introduced with the same grainy clip of a hand that shouldn't have touched a football but did, and got away with it, forever. Adding fuel to the fire, Argentina has once again caused a major heartbreak for England's side, taking them out of the 2026 World Cup tournament few nights ago, when it seemed they were valiantly on their way to redemption since 1966. The Three Lions will end with third place in the semi-finals, as Argentina face Spain in the finals. This hate has gone beyond just player status to the country, and it's football, and it's only just began. Argentina, Neymar Jr. Argentina's grudge is younger, but it's caught up fast. The 2021 Copa America final at the Maracanã set the stage, Brazil beaten on their own turf in the one competition they never lost on home soil, and Neymar's reaction afterward wasn't grace. It was silence, followed by years of needling that made clear the loss never sat right. Since then it's been a steady drip. Mock celebrations timed for maximum visibility whenever Brazil beats an Argentine club side, Instagram posts with just enough subtext to get picked apart by both fanbases, interviews where he can't quite bring himself to say Messi's name without a pause first. What makes Neymar Argentina's villain of choice isn't one incident, it's the accumulation. The sense that every time Brazil loses to Argentina, Neymar takes it more personally than anyone else in yellow, and every time he does, Argentine fans get exactly the reaction they were hoping for. It's a rivalry that runs on provocation now, and Neymar's been happy to supply it. Brazil, Lionel Messi, a no-brainer. Flip the coin and it's Messi who haunts Brazilian football, and the strange part is he barely had to say a word to do it. The Copa America final in 2021 wasn't just a loss, it was a very specific kind of humiliation. Argentina, Brazil's oldest rival, winning the trophy at the Maracanã, in Rio, in the stadium that's supposed to be Brazilian football's cathedral, in front of a home crowd that showed up expecting history and left having watched Messi finally get his first major senior title at their expense. He didn't showboat. He didn't need to. The image of him lifting that trophy on Brazilian soil did all the talking. Since then, every Argentina-Brazil fixture carries that night with it, whether either team wants it to or not. Brazilian fans have tried to move past it, tried to point to World Cups and Copa America titles won long before Messi arrived, but for a generation that watched that final live, Messi's not just a rival great, he's the guy who beat Brazil in the one place they thought was safest. France, Antonio Rüdiger. Rüdiger's reputation walks into every French fixture before he does. It's the tactical fouls that always seem to land a half second after the ball's already gone, the theatrical protests when a card comes his way like he's the one who's been wronged, and a physical, borderline confrontational style that French attackers have learned to brace for specifically when he's on the pitch. Add his Champions League history. The collisions, the flashpoints against French clubs in Europe, the sense that he treats French players as a category worth targeting rather than just opponents who happen to be French. And you've got a player who's built an entire reputation on being the guy France fans genuinely don't want their forwards running at. It's not diving, and it's not cynicism exactly. It's a controlled aggression that always seems to walk right up to the disciplinary line without quite crossing it, which somehow makes it more infuriating than an outright dirty player would be. French fans have learned to expect the worst from a Rüdiger challenge, and more often than not, that's exactly what they get. Germany, Memphis Depay. This rivalry goes back further than either player's career. The Netherlands and Germany have been trading grudges since 1974, when West Germany beat a Dutch side many still consider the greatest to never win a World Cup, and every meeting since has carried that unfinished business with it. Depay's become the modern face of Dutch defiance in that story. The gold chain, the tattoos, the celebrations that seem deliberately aimed toward the German bench rather than his own supporters, the interviews where he talks about beating Germany like it's a mission statement rather than just another fixture. For a rivalry built on decades of near misses and one deeply painful final, Depay is exactly the kind of villain German fans have come to expect out of Amsterdam. Confident to the point of arrogance, unbothered by German pressing, and seemingly aware that every goal he scores against them lands differently than a goal against anyone else. German fans don't just want to beat the Netherlands when Depay is involved, they want to specifically silence him, and he knows it. Netherlands, Joshua Kimmich. Reciprocity is the whole point of a real rivalry, and Kimmich returns Dutch hostility with interest, just in a quieter register. Where Depay provokes loudly, Kimmich does it through relentless, suffocating pressing that's specifically designed to break Dutch rhythm before it ever gets started. Closing passing lanes, disrupting the build-up play the Netherlands has built its footballing identity around since the days of total football, and doing it with a calm efficiency that Dutch fans find almost more insulting than outright trash talk. Then there's the interviews. Kimmich talking about German tactical superiority, about discipline, about the kind of structural advantages that Dutch football has spent 50 years insisting it doesn't need. It's not flashy, and it's not personal in the way Depay's provocations are, but for a rivalry that's as much about footballing philosophy as it is about results, Kimmich represents everything Dutch fans resent about German football's self-assurance, quietly, efficiently, and consistently. Portugal, Álvaro Morata. Iberian rivalries run hot, and Morata's built an entire career persona on baiting Portuguese fans specifically. The ear-cupping celebrations after scoring against Portugal, the exaggerated reactions to fouls won against Portuguese defenders, a habit of playing every Spain-Portugal fixture like it's personal in a way that a routine World Cup qualifier arguably shouldn't be. Morata treats this rivalry with an intensity that Portuguese fans have come to expect and dread in equal measure. He's not the most talented villain on this list, and even Spanish fans will admit he's not always the most consistent finisher. But that's arguably what makes him more punchable rather than less. Because Portuguese supporters watch him underperform for entire matches and then somehow find a way to score the one goal that matters, celebrate like he's just won the World Cup on his own, and do it all with a smirk that reads as pure Clásico-era Spanish swagger dressed up in a national shirt. Spain, Cristiano Ronaldo. Of course it's Ronaldo. 9 years in a Real Madrid shirt, 4 Champions Leagues won in that stadium, a statue's worth of history built specifically in Spain. And then he pulled on a Portugal shirt and became Spanish football's most resented export almost overnight. The free kick against Spain at the 2018 World Cup in Russia is the moment that defines it. A hat-trick completed in the dying minutes with a strike that curled past the Spanish wall and a Spanish goalkeeper, in a group stage match, against the country that made him a global superstar in the first place. Clásico loyalty runs deep in Spanish football, and Ronaldo weaponized every ounce of it against them, not because he owed Spain anything, but because beating them clearly meant more to him than beating almost anyone else. Spanish fans who spent a decade chanting his name at the Bernabeu now watch him line up against them and feel something closer to betrayal than rivalry. And Ronaldo, characteristically, has never shown the slightest interest in making that feeling easier for them. Belgium, Kylian Mbappé. Proximity breeds contempt, and nowhere is that clearer in international football than Belgium's relationship with Mbappé. The 2018 semi-final is the whole story. Belgium's so-called golden generation, De Bruyne, Hazard, Lukaku, all peaking at the same tournament, all built up as a team to finally end a decades-long wait, and then a 19-year-old Mbappé helps eliminate them on the way to France lifting the trophy days later. It wasn't just a loss, it was confirmation that Belgium's golden window had closed without a single major trophy to show for it. Every celebration since has felt, to Belgian fans, like a pointed reminder of exactly how close they came and exactly who was on the other side of it. Mbappé didn't need to say anything provocative, didn't need a signature taunt. The years of near misses that followed for Belgium's generation did the talking for him, and every time he lines up against them now, that 2018 semi-final walks back onto the pitch alongside him. Uruguay, Rodrigo de Paul. The Rio de la Plata rivalry doesn't need manufactured drama. It's baked into the geography, into a century of clashes between two small football nations who've spent generations insisting they're the real heart of South American football. De Paul's relentless, niggling midfield style has made him the perfect modern flashpoint for it. The fouls that stop Uruguayan momentum dead just as it's building, the constant low-level chatter aimed at referees and opponents alike, a positional discipline that means he's always exactly where the ball isn't supposed to let a Uruguayan attacker get free. It's not spectacular villainy, it's attritional. De Paul isn't the guy who scores the goal that breaks Uruguayan hearts, he's the guy who makes sure the game never gets to that point in the first place, frustrating attackers into mistakes and drawing fouls that slow every Uruguayan attempt to build rhythm. For a rivalry built on stubbornness as much as skill, that's exactly the kind of player Uruguayan fans have learned to despise most. Croatia, Jude Bellingham. Croatia's golden generation built part of their legacy on beating England when it mattered most, knocking them out in the 2018 semi-final with a display of control and composure that Luka Modric and Ivan Rakitic made look almost effortless. Bellingham represents the next wave of that same rivalry, brash, physically dominant, seemingly allergic to letting a Croatian midfield dictate tempo the way that generation once did against the exact same shirt. To Croatian fans, he's less a specific enemy in the way Ronaldo is to Spain, and more a symbol. A reminder that the golden generation which spent a decade punching above its weight is aging out, while England's next crop of talent, led by a player who plays with more swagger at 20 than most of Croatia's stars ever allowed themselves, is just getting started. It's a rivalry less about a single incident, and more about a changing of the guard that Croatian fans aren't ready to accept. USA, Hirving Lozano. CONCACAF's oldest, loudest rivalry belongs to the United States and Mexico, and Lozano's become its modern flashpoint. He's the scorer behind more than one dose of Ciro reversal, the games where Mexico finally broke a scoreline that had haunted them for years, and his celebrations after scoring against the US are never subdued. They're aimed squarely at American benches, at American broadcast cameras, at an entire fanbase back home that's been waiting for exactly that image. With the tournament arriving on American soil for the first time since 1994, that history isn't just background noise anymore, it's the whole subplot. A home nation trying to establish itself on the biggest stage against a rival who's spent years proving he knows exactly how to spoil an American party. Expect every Lozano touch in a USA-Mexico fixture to come loaded with more noise than the scoreline alone would suggest. 12 nations, 12 rivals, and not one grudge invented for a highlight reel. These are the players who turn a football match into something closer to old business finally getting settled, decade after decade, tournament after tournament. If you enjoyed this, subscribe 'cause I'll be posting a lot more. Thanks for watching.